Well, it's that time of the year again. For almost all of my time on Linux, I've used the GNOME desktop environment. It's simple, has great consistency across its core applications, is incredibly fast and smooth, and offers one, if not the best virtual desktop and workspace support on the market. KDE Plasma, on the other hand, is the performance champ. As the desktop mode desktop environment of the Steam Deck, as well as multiple gaming distros, its generally faster development cycle and resemblance to a traditional desktop experience that is still very customizable, it would be fair to say that it is more than enough to provide an outstanding experience. So what is my problem currently? Why am I having such a hard time deciding on one desktop environment? What are the limitations on each? And ultimately, now with both GNOME 50 and KDE Plasma 6.6 on Fedora 44, which one did I decide to stay on? All of this and more in today's video. This video was made possible by channel members of our community. If you want to participate in selecting new video topics, see what's going on behind the scenes, and gain access to various tips and tricks, then please make sure to check out the join button or the link in the video description down below. I'm gonna be honest, using KDE Plasma over the past couple of months has been really refreshing. It's easy, feels fast and reliable, and is very customizable, even though I stick to a more native approach this time. It has more features than GNOME, is capable of restoring open windows in case of a crash, which when working with DaVinci Resolve actually happened once during heavy editing, and it fixed a major performance issue that I was having on GNOME. Ever since I switched to a hybrid graphics laptop, I noticed that it performed worse when hooking up my external monitors directly to the laptop ports that are hardwired to the NVIDIA GPU. This didn't really make sense to me, because why would routing it through the iGPU be faster? And also on Windows it behaved correctly and performed better. As it turns out, it was a GNOME problem which Plasma does not suffer from. And since I started gaming more and also switched to two 144p and 180Hz monitors, I pretty much had to use the DGPU ports, simply because USB-C with DisplayPort can only go so far. However, even though I really like KDE Plasma, as I've always said it, GNOME basically nailed it for me. The virtual desktops, or they call them workspaces, just feel so natural to me. The hotkeys of combining the scroll wheel of the mouse with the meta key, being able to navigate it with just my mouse if I want to, and the pace of it all just feel right. And while Plasma 6 has had a similar overview feature for a while now, it never felt the same. Good news though, it seems like scrolling is finally coming with KDE Plasma 6.7. However, overall speaking, I still kind of feel like using GNOME. Here's the thing though. In a recent video, I spoke about that I want to try Fedora 44 with GNOME 50 once it released, since there was an interesting change for unblocking the NVIDIA GPUs, which seemed to be exactly my problem. Well, it wasn't really. But then again, I was on the most recent driver version, which received another patch in GNOME 50.1 to fix that issue again. And well, the desktop feels a tiny bit smoother, but nothing really changed in gaming performance. Connecting my laptop to my USB-C port and internal AMD GPU, whilst the NVIDIA GPU is just handling the game without the monitors, is still faster, but just not an option for me if I want to go for my highest refresh rates. So what is going on here? Well, I did some digging, and an open issue called Further Improve Fluidity on High Refresh Rate Monitors attached to NVIDIA DGPUs led me towards a so-called user space dev rule that allows me to switch the primary GPU for rendering from my AMD onboard graphics to the dedicated NVIDIA GPU. I simply identified the correct numbers for my own hardware, saved the file, reloaded some stuff and rebooted, just in case. And voila, my primary is now the NVIDIA GPU. By the way, if you're wondering on why I just didn't disable the iGPU in the UEFI via the Max options, it's because Lux, or Plymouth or whatever, for unlocking my PC does not work with my NVIDIA GPU. Like, it's not just that it's not displaying anything, it just straight up does not work, crashes or whatever. And adding the NVIDIA driver could result in its own issues. So I just did the UDEF rule way. Anyway, that fixed it. It's not a good solution, because obviously my power draw when running on battery is now much higher, but performance is now basically identical to KDE Plasma. In Far Cry 5, for example, I get around 20 to 30 FPS more, and that is not little. So now I'm faced with a dilemma. Stay on GNOME with that fix in place and having to deal with the lower battery life or manual switching every time, or just go with KDE Plasma, which does handle that much better. It might actually get me to my beloved workflow really soon. There is a lot happening on the GNOME side of things recently. However, I do not actually know if that will fix the issue, unless I'm going to test it myself. But on a production machine, I don't know. I want to keep all my integrations, which I use every time I am on GNOME. However, I can get this to work on Plasma just as well. Plus, there are some regressions on the GNOME side of things anyway, whereas for example the Google Drive is no longer available. KDE Plasma has better window handling support, it seems. Popping out a browser tab and moving it to another desktop does not seem to cause any scaling problems like on GNOME, and they have an inbuilt clipboard history, whereas my favorite GNOME extension for that feature is still under review. But then again, the GNOME workflow and its core applications that just do not integrate that well into KDE Plasma feel so much more polished to me personally. I know it's all personal preference, but I feel like GNOME is something that I would develop myself. While Plasma feels much more feature complete and nowadays often even more mature, the simplicity of GNOME and its level of polish is really good. I am honestly not sure what I will keep using. Maybe I'll just keep both. It technically works. Some changes get carried over to the other desktop environment if you set them. So that is something to look out for. And when logging into certain apps or websites, you might need to do it on each desktop, since they use different ways to store those credentials. But if I use GNOME for work and Plasma for gaming, it could actually work. Oh, I actually just had an idea. You know how Linux supports multiple users being logged in at the same time? I just make two local accounts, one that uses GNOME and one that uses KDE Plasma in a different session, and then I can switch between them with Ctrl, Alt and the F1 to F12 keys, I guess. That might actually work. Okay, if it doesn't work though and I had to make a choice, I think I would stick to GNOME again, just because I'm confident enough that this issue will be resolved eventually. And even if not, I try to play games the regular way, and if I'm not GPU limited, the difference is basically not there anyway. Whatever, what I like to know now is, what do you think about all that? Do you use KDE Plasma for gaming, or do you prefer a different desktop environment? Please let us know in the comment section down below. Just like always, before I end this video, I quickly wanted to mention that if you want to support the channel, make even better videos, then please feel free to check out our membership program, as well as our online shop, whereas each sale helps to support various open source projects. If you've liked this video, then please make sure to show it with a like, and also don't forget to subscribe, if you don't want to miss out on more future Linux videos just like this one. Ooh, that was a harsh end. Anyway, I'll see you around. And all that's left to say now is good morning, good afternoon or good evening, wherever you are. I'll see you around.